Hello everyone, my name is Cosmic and welcome to the video in which I rank the quality of all of Death Stranding's bosses. As always, quickly before I start, I want to be clear that this video is just my opinion. And with that out of the way, let's begin with number 8. Number 8, Dolphin Catcher. The first boss you encounter in Death Stranding unfortunately fails to be anything particularly spectacular. After one of my favorite scenes in the entire game where Higgs introduces himself, he puts you on the menu for this giant dolphin BT. And yeah, this is actually a dolphin, not a squid. Despite me saying that it's nothing spectacular, there's a huge wow factor in fighting this guy, like most of the other bosses in this game. This is the first time the game throws anything truly threatening in your direction, and it does so unexpectedly. This boss is fairly basic though, as is expected from what's probably supposed to be a tutorial fight. Provided you stay on top of the buildings and throw the grenades appropriately, you won't have too many problems here. It really doesn't do anything from a distance, but the one attack it does have access to is very dangerous if you're trudging through the tar. It will bounce backwards and then spin 3 times towards you extremely quickly. Provided you see this attack coming, it won't be an issue, but if you don't and you're walking slowly through the tar, prepare for a void out. If you're closer to it, it will unleash one of its many different melee attacks, most of which involve swinging at you with its tentacles and are tough to avoid once it's started them. You're best playing at mid-range where you can safely throw grenades at him and only be at the mercy of one of its attacks, a quick charge that's telegraphed very well by a quick electric shock in its mouth. Don't rely on these buildings too much though, the dolphin will grab them with a pair of arms before diving back into the tar, and this means the building you're standing on is about to get sucked in too. Aside from that, if you just keep your distance and throw hematic grenades at it, it won't be too much of a threat. There is a weaker version of this dolphin catcher that you can encounter if you get caught by BTs in the eastern region. This one shares a very similar moveset but boasts less HP and damage than the one manifested by Higgs. Number 7, the Leviathan. One thing I will say now is that I think all bosses in this game are consistently mediocre as boss fights. Death Stranding is not a game that relies on brilliant combat mechanics to entertain its fans, even though it does have good combat mechanics. The Leviathan is a sight to behold. The beautiful music as it explodes from the tar, the golden chiral crystals on its back glistening in the sunset. Where this boss falls short is in its gameplay. The Leviathan doesn't really do anything other than fly around or hide in the tar. The few attacks it does have access to are awesome though. If you stay in the tar for too long and the Leviathan is also underneath it, it will make the ground beneath you go golden and will bite you like a shark before disappearing quickly back into the tar. It can fire at you with a chiral laser similar to another catcher in the game, easily avoided if you just strafe before it flies in front of you. It can also drop balls of chiralium on top of you as well as chiral BTs. These BTs will explode upon impact with solid structures like rocks or buildings, but will chase you like huggers if they land in the tar and can overwhelm you if you're not careful. As amazing as all this sounds, its attacks are very few and far between, and I unfortunately just find myself standing around doing nothing for a lot of this fight, whether it be shooting him with a gun inconsequentially or just standing there waiting for it to come out of the tar. I believe all of this is fine in the context of Death Stranding. This boss gave us all the wow factor that they wanted to give us, and I say that's a mission success. Number 6, Combat Veteran. Don't let anyone tell you that Death Stranding's shooting mechanics are bad, because they're not. They're definitely not amazing, but they are very good for a game that encourages you not to shoot anything in the first place. Set in the trenches of World War I, you fight against the combat veteran and his soldiers. Contrary to what you have done in the game so far, this time you have to actually follow the Ojdek to find where the combat veteran is in order to defeat him. Scattered around the arena are weapons such as the highest level assault rifle you have access to, hematic grenades, and shotguns. Also scattered around are bunches of respawning cryptobiotes and blood bags for healing. These come in extremely useful, especially on very hard difficulty, as the soldiers will do a lot of damage and spawn in groups at times. Cliff will stagger a few times each phase, occasionally teleporting a soldier in front of him to tank some shots. Once you deplete his HP, he will disintegrate into the ground and move somewhere else. If there are any soldiers alive that he manifested, they will also despawn here. This gives you a nice opportunity within waves to restock on anything you need. Low on health? Go back to those cryptobiotes that have probably respawned. No ammo left? Go find another assault rifle. Once you staggered him for the 4th time, the fight will end. Combining Death Stranding's good shooter mechanics, although it can be unresponsive at times, with a good mixture of downtime to restock and having respawning health supplies, the battle with the combat veteran is certainly a good one. Number 5, HIGGS MONAGHAN. I feel like most people would put this fight lower on the list and think it's greater than I do. I love this fight, and I think it's very creative. This is the first time you battle a human that isn't a mule or a homo demon. Because of this, it's potentially the very first time you fight a human at all. Dotted around the beach are destroyed boxes of cargo that you must either throw at Higgs to stun him or run up to him and smack him with it, giving you an opportunity to throw a few punches in his direction. On the 4th punch, he will teleport away again, and you must repeat this process over and over. If he spots you, he will begin shooting his assault rifle, but there are plenty of places to hide on this beach, like these conveniently placed whale carcasses. The catch is that if you stand in the same place for too long, Higgs will immediately teleport and begin firing at you from an angle that is almost guaranteed to hit you, so you have to keep moving. Once you've done this enough, Higgs will throw away his assault rifle and start jumping everywhere and all over the place to swipe at you with his knife. He will jump around very unpredictably with absolutely no tell as to where he's going to be next, sometimes even jumping as soon as you throw cargo at him and retaliating with an undodgeable swipe with his knife. This brings me to my only complaint about this fight. The second phase, because of its undodgeable and unpredictable attacks, makes this part on very hard difficulty lean closer to being unfair. Getting swiped by his knife at 90% of your health bar with seemingly no way to predict it, feels about as pleasant as opening a can of surströmming. Your windows of opportunity are seriously thinned in this phase, but Higgs will prepare to throw a stun grenade at you at times, so this is a really good opportunity to throw more cargo at him and repeat the punch tactic as usual. The final phase of this fight is typical Kojima, a Tekken-style 1v1 punch-off versus a weakened Higgs in the tar. This is simple stuff: throw punches at him, dodge or block his, and eat cryptobiotes to heal at any opportunity before he does. The melancholic soundtrack accompanying this scene, as well as Sam's emotional dialogue, is one of the best ways they could have ended this encounter with the particle of God himself. Number 4, Clifford. Once again, we're back fighting Cliff, the combat veteran in the previous entry, this time stuck in a supercell that took us to World War II. It's the same stuff here really, but in a better arena with more weapons at your disposal. War sections are difficult and extremely satisfying on very hard difficulty, even more so as it gets further into the game. The arena is slightly smaller here, but is also structured in such a way that it allows you to get the high ground advantage versus the soldiers, but it also allows Cliff to do the same over you. Of course, there are plenty of blood bags and cryptobiotes spread around the church for healing, and the time between phases to back up and restock and heal. This encounter also introduces armor plates being dropped around to make the encounter more manageable. All in all, the second encounter versus Cliff is everything that made him first encounter amazing, with some icing on top to make it even better. Number 3, Lion Catcher. You don't even need to have played Death Stranding to recognize these large gelatinous felines. Fastest and most agile catcher in the game, the Lion Catcher is capable of everything the other ones are. They can charge at you very quickly and even teleport around the tar by sinking into it then reappearing somewhere else. If you're on a difficulty above normal, you will have to fight more than one of these at once, including in the Higgs encounter, which adds difficulty to it. And if you're on very hard, pretty much makes running away your only option. What makes this boss encounter so great is its variance in attacks and how well telegraphed they all are. It can shoot you from a distance with a chiral laser like the Leviathan, but this is even better telegraphed here by an electrical shockwave moving inwards towards its mouth. Its 2 melee attacks are amazing as well. One is a somewhat fast tail swipe that can be ran away from easily, provided you keep an eye on the flash on the tip of its tail, and the other is a leap attack that leaves it suspended in the air for a second or two to allow Sam to strafe or jump away from it. Staying on the buildings and shooting the cats from a distance is the best idea, as it allows you to keep distance from its melee attacks, but also allows you to pay close attention to the telegraph of the chiral laser. However, just like with the other catches in the game, the buildings can't be relied on entirely. Not only will you need to restock on supplies before long, but they will also headbutt the structures to send them sinking back into the tar again. All in all, the battle versus lion catchers are a fantastic way to make a game with combat mechanics like Death Stranding's fun, but also fair. Balancing their agility with slow and coordinated attacks makes it a fantastic counter and definitely the best catcher encounter in the game. Although, they really could have done with not spawning 3 of them on very hard, just saying. Number 2, Clifford UNGER. Final battle, the final supercell. Clifford UNGER returns, this time in Vietnam, and what can I say? It's the same as before, but even better. I failed to mention the phenomenal atmosphere in the last 2 entries, so I'll say it now. My god, did they nail the atmosphere in these encounters. I play an entire game in this setting. Anyway, what makes this encounter even better than the last two is that this time, stealth is also encouraged. I'm never usually a big fan of stealth in video games, but Death Stranding stealth is so basic and rewarding that it makes it feel less of a chore for me. Or maybe I'm a simp, who knows. In the World War I and II encounters, there was pretty much no way to get behind the soldiers and kill them with the strand, but here in Vietnam, there's grass placed everywhere, and the soldiers are much more spread out due to this being the largest arena of all. And good thing too, this encounter is by far the most difficult and can cause a lot of issues on very hard difficulty due to the grass impeding your vision during gunfights. Right at the beginning, you can easily get a stealth kill on a few soldiers and even get a strand on Cliff to deal some big damage. This is fantastic because it helps alleviate the fact that there can be so many soldiers shooting at you from so many different angles sometimes. It can make the encounter pretty difficult to control. As always, there are plenty of supplies scattered around, including armor plates to make flankers deal less damage, and even more weapons than before. The ability to gain high ground advantage is still the case here, but less emphasized, but is made up for by the introduction of stealth. World War I was the cake, World War II was the icing, and this final encounter versus Clifford UNGER in Vietnam was the icing on top. Before we move on to our number one entry, be sure to check me out at twitch.tv/cosmicborn. I would love to see you there. And now for the number one entry and my personal favorite boss in the game, Flower of Fingers. The BT Colossi manifested by Higgs is one of the most formidable foes you will face, but also the best. Some of its parts makes this fight amazing. It also features hidden phases which no other boss in this game has. At the beginning of the encounter, it only has access to a few attacks, the main of which being try to grab you with its finger tentacle things. These essentially act like BT huggers and will constrict you and make you move slower while one is attached to you. While his health is high, he will only fire 2 or 3 at you, but as the fight progresses, he can fire all 10 that can be strafed fairly easily if you see the attack coming. Once you damage it enough, Higgs will relocate from its chest onto its shoulder, and the fight will resume with it having access to new attacks, the most noticeable addition being its ability to spew out gas bag BTs from its head. More often than not, its head will also transform into amaze for a moment while the bags spew out. Creepy. Shooting these will cause them to explode, which triggers a chain reaction to those around it, adding an extremely useful reward for players who see this coming and capitalize off it as soon as it happens, because if they don't, they fill up the floor of the arena and you have to waste ammunition to clear them all out. It can do this multiple times in succession, so always keep your eyes on the skies and burst them as soon as possible. As I mentioned before, it can now throw more of its fingers at you, all 10 of them to be more precise. These can overwhelm you and deal considerable damage if you aren't careful. Once his health reaches the lower percentages, he will dive his hand into the ground before pulling it back up suddenly, releasing multiple chiral BTs like the Leviathan that are far more of a threat this time due to the greatly smaller arena and fewer buildings to rely on for cover. These huggers will very easily overwhelm you on any difficulty unless you shoot them before they can, which can be made troublesome if you're getting staggered a lot by gas bags you failed to destroy earlier. Ultimately, you're firing rockets filled with your own blood at an absolutely colossal foe who is throwing chiral tentacles and gas beach things at you. The scale of this encounter is incredible and even more rewarding to defeat it. We saw this at the start of the game, and now, nearing the end sections, we're finally taking it down. With the boss rewarding you massively for seeing attacks coming and the phenomenal soundtrack accompanying it, the adrenaline rush of an encounter here is what makes Flower of Fingers, in my opinion, the best boss in Death Stranding. And that's it. I hope you all enjoyed. Please feel free to share your opinion in the comments below and subscribe to the channel for more Death Stranding content, like a video where I try to walk through the game in a straight line, or across the regions entirely on a floating carrier. Don't ask me why I did these. I also got a bunch of content planned for the next few months, so look forward to them. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I'll see you all next time.